Hello, fellow internauts. Steve Persh here from Pantheon. Today we are talking about version controlling code for a WordPress website with Git. It's one of my favorite topics. I gotta tell you, I am enthusiastic about Git, perhaps overly enthusiastic about Git. I love it. I learned Git about 12 years ago, and I learned it through total immersion after switching jobs. Before switching to that job, I used a whole bunch of different version control systems. Like first, really no version control system at all as I was crossing that chasm from amateur developer to professional-ish developer to professional. I learned the hard way that you need version control. Eventually, I figured out like, oh, I can copy files and rename them with dates, and that's a pseudo version control system. You know, I eventually got into just like making zip files, semi-random tar files, hoping for the best. Eventually, as I began to work with larger and larger teams, I realized like, okay, this ad hoc system is not enough. I need an actual system. The first of which I used with other people was Dreamweaver check-in, check-out, which was very, very quickly subverted as we found Dreamweaver check-in and check-out was not a robust process. Perhaps we'll talk more about why later. So I got to a point where I had to pick, okay, SVN or Git. You know, the late 2000s, early 2010s, those were the dominant choices. And I picked SVN because it had like a better looking, easier to use GUI that was easily available for the Mac platform. And Git was then and is still now a very command line centric way of doing things, a command line centric culture. And the command line was a pretty scary place to me as a young developer until, as I mentioned before, I switched jobs and I just had to go all in on Git all the time because all of my coworkers were using it. They were living on the command line. And in retrospect, I see how lucky I was to have that experience for learning Git. It was really the perfect conditions. I was working at a company that had a remote first mentality, but I was in the office. I was in the Chicago office. My boss flew in from Atlanta for a week. I was able to learn a lot of the Git basics again through immersion. And with that remote first mentality, we did so much collaboration through remote friendly tools like Git as version control, IRC, and other sorts of collaboration tools that worked through the internet. And of course, if I got stuck, I had the people in the office next to me. That's not the same experience that everyone else has, though. Yes, I could get comfortable with Git diff and Git add and commit and push and all of those things, but not everyone has that experience. It took me a while to realize not everyone found Git as mind-blowing and life-changing as I did. In those early 2000s, or early 2010s, I should say, as Git was hitting its stride, I watched and rewatched a TED Talk about Git changing the world. I was an early zealot of the idea that entire websites, content, and all could and maybe should be entirely tracked in Git. You know, those early days of static site generation. And now, you know, a decade plus later, I'm somewhat embarrassed by how bullish I was that Git was just going to change everything. Now, for developers watching now, don't get me wrong, like Git has changed so much for the development community. Git Ops is a whole thing now. Perhaps the entire DevOps revolution only happened because Git was there as an accelerant. Who knows? I do know, though, that the power of Git going forward is only going to reach as far as those who can use it. And in the last few years, I have gotten very funny looks from people when I describe Git as an easy to learn technology. It was easy for me because of the help that I had. In general, Git, I can see now, is really not an easy to learn technology. Not everyone gets that immersion treatment. If we look at all the members of a web team, beyond the developers who have a terminal window open every moment of every day, there are people who may just need to edit CSS occasionally, site builders perhaps who need to edit or export config files. That dev-ziner role might not want to learn Git all at once through intense immersion. And I want to bring onto the stream right now someone who I think has a lived experience that matches that messy middle between the designer role, the developer role. We've got Kathy Bosco joining us from Pantheon's own design team. Kathy, good to see you as always.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Yeah, Git can be overwhelming if you're not immersed in it regularly.
Yeah. So I do on this live stream, I want to look at Git in conjunction with Pantheon, and to some degree, I think it'll be helpful for us to channel our past selves, because you and I have both worn different hats in our careers. But I'm curious if you could start us off by sharing some of your personal experience, some of your early exposure to Git through the Pantheon dashboard.
Yes, absolutely. One of the first times I was even brought into the Pantheon platform was when I was running a boutique agency and collaborating with developers and front-end engineers on projects at a wide range of scales and different types of projects. It was an exciting time. And the developer brought our project onto Pantheon. And two things he said right out of the gate was, "Oh, Kathy, you're going to love the documentation." I'm like, am I have to read all the documentation? So like the documentation was really high value for the developer and then for me as well. But the thing that he was the most excited about me being able to do was to make updates and then use the git command to push changes and then leave little comments about what I did, so that if he had to go back and undo anything, he could easily see who made what changes when and what they were about. And I had not used Git really in that way before. So it took a few times for him walking me through it. But it was a game changer for us in a lot of ways, because, you know, as a designer, you don't want to always have to be all dependent and like, could you please disrupt whatever you're doing and take care of this? And I'm dealing with the content team that's on this high pressure schedule. And I'm sure I didn't want to disrupt him. And I'm sure it was really great for them to like just empower us. Like they felt it was going to be so easy for us. And it wasn't really easy at first. But
yeah, easy is a relative term. And I've been in, you know, the roles that I've been in at Pantheon, I've floated between our DevRel team and worked on docs, and I have learned easy is probably not a word I should use. Easy and just are words that indicate some high level of assumptions being made by either the person who's saying easy or the person who's writing, oh, just do a git clone, just rebase, just git is reflog a command? Okay, I'm here. I'm supposed to play the role of Git expert on our live stream today. But you know, if anyone wants to use the chat and like Git quiz me, you'll very quickly find that I have limits to my Git knowledge as well. And that is part of what I like about Git, is that it can get incredibly deep. It can get incredibly complex. I think there are decent borders available for like, how deep do you have to go? Now, if you're just like starting on from Git documentation or just hearing like, you got to use Git, figuring out where those borders are is going to be tricky. But Kathy, I think in just a minute here, I should jump over to the screen share here, because I do think Pantheon suggests some pretty good borders might be too strong of a word here, but guardrails, let's say guardrails for some usages. All you need to know for Git usage is this subset that gets abstracted through the Pantheon dashboard. I made mention of chat. Yes, if anyone watching live wants to quiz me or Kathy on Git things, or ask Kathy about her past lives running boutique agencies and whatnot, go for it. Let me let me wait. I'm getting lost in StreamYard here. Let me bring up the screen share right now. All right, we're adding that to the stream. So Kathy, the first thing that I want to show is basic usage of what we call our SFTP mode and how that can connect to Git for a WordPress website. So to just get us oriented here, what we're looking at right now is a very freshly made WordPress site dashboard on Pantheon. I made this just in the last few hours, just earlier this morning. Let me bring up another banner here. If anyone wants to follow along either live or with the recording, everything that we're going to show today is something that you can try out and replicate with a free sandbox plan on Pantheon. So if you follow that link to pantheon.io/register, you can get that free account, spin up a WordPress site, end up in this same place where here in the development environment for this site, I have just a totally fresh WordPress install, really nothing up our sleeves here other than a fresh WordPress install. And we'll see later that I added a child theme. But for just to get us off the ground with doing a little bit of Git, Kathy, is there a favorite plugin that you like to add to a fresh WordPress install? Because this is really just WordPress core being installed on Pantheon. There is a Pantheon caching plugin added, but other than that, while you think about that, I'm going to delete Hello Dolly. I don't think we need Hello Dolly.
Please delete Hello Dolly. I'll tell you one plugin that goes on every WordPress site I've literally ever built or worked on is probably the Yoast SEO plugin. So let's add that one.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we're going to go to plugins. We could upload a plugin that way. Yes, shocking that Yoast SEO has great internal SEO. All I have to do is search for SEO here in WordPress, click install, and we're going to get Yoast SEO module added, activated. All right, I'm gonna skip the configuration because that's not really what we want to show here. I'm going to jump back over to the Pantheon dashboard and see, oh, hey, 500 files have changed. It's a big plugin. And actually 500 is probably not the exact number of files. I think 500 is just where the Pantheon dashboard stops counting.
It's a big plugin.
Yes. All right. So the Pantheon dev environment is now seeing we deleted Akismet and Hello Dolly. We added what on the file system is called WordPress SEO, but Yoast SEO. So I'm now going to just summarize what we did here. We deleted Hello Dolly and Kismet, added Yoast SEO. Cool. Now, Kathy, one thing I don't think I've introduced yet is the idea that on every Pantheon site, you get a dev environment, a test environment, and a live environment. So now that we have done this commit on the dev environment, we could move things over to the test environment. And just as a reference here, I should also, I suppose, drop into our chat here. If anyone wants to follow along at a high level and see how this is working out, we have a diagram here of the Pantheon workflow. So we've added code in the dev environment. We can then deploy to test and on to live. Now, under the hood, Kathy, when we do a deployment to test or live, we'll be making a Git tag. And that's something that you may not need to know about. And even as I'm saying that out loud, I feel like I might have already introduced too much complexity. And we're 15 minutes into the stream, and I've yet to show a Lego or a crayon. How would you feel about let's pause on the live demoing and just we've already introduced a lot of moving pieces. Let's see if we can represent those pieces in Lego and crayon form. How does that sound?
That sounds great, Steve. Let's do that before
All
it
right.
gets too complex and
All right.
deep into how much Git do I need to get, you know?
Yes. I said Git tags, and I felt like that might be one too many things.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about tags yet. All right. So we're bringing up our Legos here. So we've got a Lego minifig, as they're called, to represent you, Kathy. We've got a minifig here to represent me. So far, we have been working in the dev environment on Pantheon, and I'll progressively reveal a bit more complexity here. So we were adding our plugin on the dev environment. I did mention that every single site on Pantheon has a test environment, a live environment as well. For much of what we're going to talk about, like, it's good to know that those exist. That is where we want to get our code eventually. We want to get it to the live site. But I don't think we're going to talk all that much about test and live on this stream today.
Okay.
I want to I want to instead focus on the Git pieces of it. So me wearing my this is my minifig. Me wearing my and I'm constantly on my cell phone. Me wearing my developer hat. I might prefer to work by cloning the whole Git repository down. So Git as a version control system has a copy of the code base. When we added the Yoast plugin in our dev environment, we deleted those other plugins. Those were changes that were made on this environment. The Pantheon dashboard then prompted us, like, you've got some files that are different from what is in the Git repository. Do you want to commit those? And we did. We did commit those in the dev environment, and then they went into the Git repository. Me, as a developer who might prefer to work locally, like, I could clone the whole code base down. I don't know if I'm going to do development on my phone, but let's imagine I've got a laptop as well. I'm doing work on my laptop. I can clone, push back up to Git, and that could sync to the dev environment. The flow that I want to show a bit more of next and highlight as perhaps uniquely valuable with Pantheon is the flow that, Kathy, I think appeals to you and the kind of work that you've done historically, where, like, I'm sure you could clone locally. You probably have, but that might not be your preferred working style if you're wearing that DevZiner hat, and you may just want the task before you might be as simple as, like, I'm just going to edit the CSS file, or, oh, it's weird that Yoast SEO is not installed yet, or I've got a regularly used custom plugin and I want to upload that. In that use case, like SFTP, that old protocol, that's, Git is nearly 20 years old. SFTP, even older than that. That style of working of, like, I'm just going to use SFTP to edit some CSS, add a plugin, that still works just fine.
Yeah, great for debugging too.
That's true. That is true. That is perhaps my most common usage of SFTP mode, when you want to eliminate often the, like, works on my machine problem. And if I'm doing local development over here and I've got some MAMP stack, or maybe I'm using DDev or Lando or Docker Compose directly, it's conceivable that I'll run into performance characteristics that are just not the performance characteristics of Pantheon's container, in which case you might be better off doing your work directly in an environment like that. All right. I hope that I've grounded us decently well. Kathy, in your role now at Pantheon, you do so many research conversations with our customers. Are there arrows? Are there boxes that are represented in this diagram that are common sticking points for people using Pantheon for the first time, or even long-time users of Pantheon?
Gosh, that's a really good question. The entire archive of research is going through my brain, looking for just the right answers for you. I think that, from research, I know people use SFTP a lot for debugging as well. But in terms of Git and cloning things, a lot of times, a lot of times I still think designers or content creators or people who are not the developers do get overwhelmed with how to use Git. So I guess my question is, are there common Git commands? Is there like a certain group of commands that can help with that rather than having to learn all of Git? Git is obviously table stakes for anyone working on the open web at this point, right?
Yeah. I think I can best answer that question of like what are the most essential Git commands by jumping back to the screen share. If you'll give me a moment to rearrange things here. There we go. All right. So we see here, the diagram. I'm going to bring us back to the Pantheon dashboard. So my roundabout way of answering your questions of like what are the most essential Git commands? They're the ones that are just abstracted for you in the Pantheon dashboard. You don't even need to realize that you're running a Git command. So we can do it again here. Just a few minutes ago when we added that plugin, we saw files that were added. We saw some differences. We committed. Let's do that flow, and I'll slow it down a little bit more and talk about like what would be the command line Git equivalent. And
great.
And you know what? Just for fullness, how about I do those things side by side? So just to orient us again, we have a freshly installed site here, plain WordPress site. We deleted Hello Dolly and Akismet. We added Yoast SEO. I'll click on this connection info, and we could connect directly to the database. I'll say I'm glad that our database password is so long that it's not totally visible here. If anyone watching this live stream wants to, attempt to hack my database or a throwaway dev environment, knock yourself out. There's really nothing to see there. You would find Yoast SEO. So I'm going to click open. I've gone back to CyberDuck, Kathy. Speaking of SFTP as an old protocol, I first used CyberDuck in college.
Oh, that's so
years
nostalgic
ago.
of you.
I know it is. I like it. I had to totally reset my laptop recently, and it's like, do I transmit? I think I've used probably more in the last 20 years. But you know what?
A lot of my colleagues use transmit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I did some clicking there to get to the themes directory for this WordPress site, going from the root of the file system that we found ourselves in, go to the directory of code. There we found the whole WordPress code base, and I've gone into WP content themes. Now, one way, Kathy, if you're the dev designer and you just want to get rid of a bug or something in the site, you could just get rid of the whole website. Maybe that's the way to fix it. Let's just say display none to the whole body field. That's perhaps more impractical. Another example, I could just add a ton of padding. You probably can tell, Kathy, that I have not done regular front-end development in a long time because these are my examples.
So these are good examples. There's no judgment here, Steve. Just make it visible for us. That's all that matters.
Yes. All right. So, I just displayed none the whole page, adding a giant margin around the whole page. Hopefully obvious visual changes here with our giant margin. Now, going back to the dashboard here, we want to see the changes that we're making. So I'll go back to CyberDuck. In practice, you may end up doing even more than editing a file. Like I'll say right before this this stream, the way I generated this child theme here is I just used the WP CLI scaffolding command to generate a child theme, and it gave me this bare bones but a fine starting point for
awesome
for further theming. Yeah, you may end up adding more files to your theme as you go. So as I make changes to that file, as I add more files, they're showing up here in the Pantheon dashboard. So again, I think it is a virtue of this way of doing things that it may not even be obvious to you or me using this, that like, oh, I'm using Git right now because I'm just toying around with CSS files, and it shows up in here as changes, and I can click and see what they are. The analog on the command line would be like Git Status, Git Diff, and just for fullness of the comparison, why don't I show those as well? So I'm going to bring up my terminal here.
Great.
I've switched over to Warp recently. Maybe that could be its own live stream.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, because I had to totally reset my computer. I had first just used the built-in Mac terminal and then iTerm, and I never felt all that strongly about either. Yes, it's a bold question, but yes, I do trust the authors of WordPress core. Thank you for asking, VS Code. All right, so I've got my local clone. I have my theme, and I see here that I have not pulled since making this theme. So that's not something I planned, but that's a decent thing to show as well. So
a lot of themes in there. I just want to say that there's a lot of themes in there.
It is a lot of themes. Chris Reynolds is a +1 for Warp. If anyone else watching wants to give a +1 to, hey, Pantheon, just use fire or any means necessary to burn away those other themes. That's been just a backburnered question of like, should we or should we not have all of the WordPress themes ever? I'm on team, we do not need all the WordPress themes ever, but there they are. So to get this on my local machine, I did a git clone. I won't re-show that, but for those on the developer side who know their way around a command line and know their way around Git, you do a git clone, you then are in the directory that has been cloned, and now I want to do a git pull to bring in those changes. A whole bunch of files came in. We saw those WordPress SEO files and my Git demo theme, the child theme that I created using the WP CLI. So just replaying what we were seeing in SFTP mode there. I got rid of the display none. I did padding 400. I'm not going to bother with a whole local development setup. We've seen local development on past live streams, so I'll just focus on like the Git analogs. So we have here an alteration to the styles file. In the Pantheon dashboard, we see that there's a styles file. I also added an empty text file just for completeness. I'll do that as well. Test.txt. What we're seeing in the Pantheon dashboard is basically an alternative representation of Git status. Just like, what is the status of my repository right now? And the status is that I have modified a file. I've got like an untracked new file. So we're seeing the same concept here, but in two representations. And I personally don't view one of these as like better or worse. These are just
like one's in the UI and one's in the command line.
Yeah. And in some situations, I personally prefer the command line way. And in other situations, I personally prefer this. It's often for me like a matter of expedience. If the thing I'm doing is as simple as like a one-line CSS change or just like debugging a thing, I'd rather not bother with a local clone and a setup of a local dev environment. So we're seeing the same information, but shown two different ways.
This is great for people in my role to be able to leave those messages and see the red and green signals. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for explaining the difference between using Terminus and the actual UI here.
Yeah, and you said difference. What a great transition, Kathy, to the next command that I wanted to show. Git diff. We didn't even plan that. But on the command line, if I wanted to see what changes were present in this file, I would run git diff, and I would see that I've removed the display none and I've added padding 400. Here, I'm just clicking on this file, and the Pantheon dashboard is like, oh, you want to see the diff. And it shows basically the same thing here. So again, the person using the dashboard may not even register that they are doing a Git-like thing, and like, that's fine. That's fine. They just need to know what changes have you made. And then here in the dashboard, when it's prompting add a commit message, as I think about it, like, this is a very Git-centric prompt, like commit message assumes that the person writing this knows what a commit message is.
Yeah, I think that's a little jargony for people who are not developers, like make it easy for our teams to look back and find an issue and understand what happened, Yeah, that's a good call out.
I've been working at Pantheon nearly 8 years. I don't know if I've ever spent more than a single second like thinking about those words, but here I am in this live stream thinking about those words. Maybe we should change those words. Just like explain. Well, there's a whole can of worms of like, should your commit message be explaining what the change is or why the change is? Because the diff tells you the what. Some people would say the commit message is to explain the why.
Fascinating. Yeah, it depends on how your team works together, I suppose.
Yes.
As a researcher, I'm on the why side. Like, tell me why. Like,
yeah. All right, so I'm writing my message here. I'll press commit. And then so that'll just take a few seconds to complete. But on the command line side of things, what we just did is a simplification of, I guess, at least 2 command line commands. So doing it straight through, well, there are ways to do there are ways to do this in one command, but I'm going to do it in the 2 command way. And maybe even 3. First, I'll just lean into my anxiety and neuroses of like, okay, before I just need to see the diff one more time. I need to see the diff one more time. Git Add is the Git Add and then a period, meaning like add everything in this directory. I'll run Git Status again, just again show me the status of things. That'll show me that these files are now ready to be committed. Now I'll commit them with, I'll do commit -m, meaning message, and then thought I had something useful in my clipboard, but I did not have what I thought I had in my clipboard. Let me bring this over. Right. So I'm just making the same commit message. All right. So now these two things are in the same state. One, just for completeness, I would be remiss to not show another way of satisfying that anxiety of wanting to see what I'm adding before I add it. Rather than doing git diff and then git add, you can do git add -p, which will ask you, like, change by change, do you want to add and presumably then commit this change? And I'll say, yes, I do.
Great.
All right. So I could then, git status and commit that if I wanted to, and why not? Yeah. And yeah, Git is shaming me for not fully configuring my Git stuff, but again, I reset my laptop not too long ago, and Git's reminding me to to tell it more deeply who I am. All right, Kathy, I feel like time is flying by. We generally aim for like 45 minutes on these live streams, and we've shown a decent amount, but our notes doc that we're working off of has many more things. I don't know if we'll be able to hit them all. Is there?
Pick your favorite.
All right. So we got to show multidev. We can't.
I think that's it. That would be my first one. SSH keys. That's
You'll figure that out.
Let's switch to a pre-made multi-dev environment, because honestly, most of the time engineering teams give me a multi-dev environment with which to work on a certain feature or function, and so that's a really great workflow to demo.
Yeah. So every site on Pantheon has the dev test live environment. Multidev is basically additional development environments. And I should call out that the multi-dev feature is available for organizations that are on our gold or above account plans. So this is I think a great reason to upgrade to a higher Pantheon plan, because as Kathy as you were just mentioning, it's a very handy way to do like environments per team member, environments per like Jira ticket number, if that's the way you want to organize things. If you
feature,
like, you're
just not
there's a
overriding each other, no code freezes. It's great.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. So every multi-dev environment on Pantheon gets its own subdomain, its own copy of the database, its own file system. And here's the thing I wasn't necessarily planning on showing, but we might as well show it. Kathy, I pre-made a multi-dev environment just for you. I was toying around in it before we started the live stream. So we've got very similar stuff to what we were showing in the dev environment: a test text file, a styles file. But we showed everyone that. Let's blow these away right now. Now there are command line ways of doing that, working directly in the Pantheon dashboard. If we want to blow away our changes without committing them, we're going to flip from SFTP mode to Git mode, and the Pantheon dashboard will be like, okay, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to do that? And I'll say, yeah, yes, I do. And Kathy, here's another area where we can bike shed the labels within the Pantheon dashboard, because these two modes that we're looking at are SFTP mode and Git mode, which are representative of those two paths that we showed in our Lego diagram. Like, are you using a local development environment that you've cloned with Git and you're only then pushing changes to your dev or multi-dev environment through Git, or are you making changes through SFTP? But even when you're in SFTP mode, as we saw, like, you do commits, they go to Git. So there's there's still a connection between those. It's more like when we're in Git mode, the file system can only be changed via Git pushes. When you're in SFTP mode, the whole file system is writable, and as we saw, you can like add Yoast SEO just through the WordPress dashboard. When you're in SFTP mode, you'd not be able to do that while in Git mode. The file system would be locked down at that time.
Yeah, I think in my previous lives, the developer's usually been running the Git mode changes while I'm running alongside doing SFTP updates, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. So there we're in the Kathy multi-dev environment, and I don't know if I stated this quite so explicitly. It's really environment per Git branch what we're seeing here. So there's a Git branch named Kathy, a Git branch named Jira 456, a Git branch named Footerbug, and to just see that from another perspective, we're seeing the list of multi-dev environments here. Might as well make this bigger. Why not?
That's better.
On the command line side of things, if I do the command git branch, I will only see the branches that I have on my local machine. What is it? Git branch dash A? Was it dash? Yes. See, that's why people love Warp, because it reminds them, it suggests for them, git branch dash something, you probably want git branch dash A. That's telling me, not only do I have the master branch on my local environment, on the remote origin environment, the Pantheon environment, there's the head branch or the head that is set to the origin branch. There's the Kathy branch, the footer bug branch, the Jira 456 branch. So again, different representations of the same information, and yeah, just looking at
Warp
this,
is your co-pilot. That's so great.
Yeah. This I think is just really a really striking representation of like, if I'm wearing my developer hat and Kathy, you're wearing your designer hat, and the question is like, what branches are there? I may not want to have, it may not be helpful for the person familiar with Git to have to explain to the person not familiar with Git all the details of local cloning, the idea of the command line in general, and then like run git branch and remember it's -A to see all this stuff. This is just a much cleaner, faster way to see, here are your branches, and do your work in SFTP mode as you were, and then when you're done, you can do the merge here. You could merge on the command line. I suppose I'll show a command line merge. So I will git checkout Kathy, which I suppose is similar to like clicking over to the Kathy multi-dev environment. And then I'll do a git merge here, origin master to bring in the, so I've now merged in the whole history of the changes that we had over in our master branch that had WordPress SEO and whatnot.
Fantastic. And just like that, you can update my own multi-dev for me and my team, working with the content team, doing content design and layout changes right in our own multi-dev.
Exactly. So yeah, so so we did that merge in the command line. If I wanted to, I could do git push origin Kathy and push my local Kathy branch to the remote Kathy branch. But like Kathy, if you're doing this yourself, you could just press this merge button in the Pantheon dashboard and get the same sorts of things. Now, here we are talking about just how great of an abstraction of Git the Pantheon dashboard is. It is limited to these commands. So the Pantheon dashboard does not have a user interface for resolving conflicts. Like as I've been going here, I've been thinking like, oh, I am making duplicative and perhaps conflicting commits on my local and straight in the dev environment. I'm setting myself up for a merge conflict. Just like the Git you run on your local machine in the command line can auto-resolve conflicts. If the conflicts are simple enough to be auto-resolvable, the Pantheon UI will auto-resolve them. But if you find yourself in a place where like Steve and Kathy are, genuinely editing the same body declaration in the same CSS file, like, okay, you might have to bring out like the next level of power tools and do like a more manual resolution of Git conflicts. We didn't have time for that on the stream today, and that is just another layer of complexity. Kathy, I feel like we are pretty much running out of time here, but I'm feeling good. I've been deep in Pantheon for so long, I take some of this for granted, but going through this with you, it gave me some warm, fuzzy feelings that like, yeah, this really is a better on-ramp for Git when you have teams with different specializations and mixed experiences.
Yeah, it has a lot of value, and you actually help my confidence with working through these workflows and helping other members of our teams who aren't using the command line necessarily as well. So this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. And again, if you're watching the live stream live, or if you're watching it recorded, check out this set of Pantheon documentation. This is another good overview of the basics of how our dev test live deployment pipeline works, and you can try out much of what you saw here today with that free Pantheon account. The Multidev is a great reason to upgrade to our gold package. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, also join us in the community if you want to talk more and work with each other on these things. Remember, we have the new community hub.
Yes, good plug. Thank you, Kathy. Let me drop that link in
here. It's really happening over there. Yeah.
Yes, if anything goes over your head, or you want additional assistance, questions, hit us up in the Pantheon community hub. There's a Pantheon Slack as well. We Pantheors are easy to find. All right. See you on the internet. Bye, Kathy.
Bye-bye.